quickly into the shea bars. Now we transition into the monkey rings. Up the warp wall and qualifies. That one in 26 seconds. We've been up the warp wall and qualifies. I can't hear. Ooh. No, it's oh, there you go. My bad for some technical difficulties here. As we have Daniel David coming to qualify. Goes into the double slider. Quick dismount. We've seen some trouble there throughout this, flying through this course. Now into these monkey rings. Forced to swing his momentum into that safety, up the warp wall, and qualifies. Great time there on the course. Throughout these first few qualifiers, we've seen some issues take place on that double slider dismount and the dismount off the shea bars into the monkey rings. That one just barely under 18 seconds at 17.9. As we have Jonathan Whites, our next qualifier. Yet to see some real trouble out of any of our contestants here so far. This serves as a pass-fail. We're not currently competing against each other. Up the hill climb. Quick dismount into the double slider. Wonderful dismount. Now using that rope into the lachey bars. White's making quick work. Up the warp wall and qualifies. Great pace. That one just under 17 seconds at 16.81. I'd like to thank Level Up here in Thomasville for allowing this on-site qualifier to take place in their facilities. As it's Ilie Karen Teraday, our next qualifier. The hill climb has been very efficient for all of our competitors into that double slider. It's been that dismount where some competitors have having some issues. Yet to see it completely trip up anyone, just slowing down on their time, but with this minute 30 cushion that they have to work with, some plenty of time to reset. We have Karen going up the hill into this double slider, able to handle that dismount well. Now into the monkey bars, quick work of those. Now into the rings. Dismount, up the warp wall, and in there for his qualification. We will have qualification events taking place Thursday and Friday at the Greensboro Coliseum. As it's our next competitor, it's Ido Likov. Seen a collective have a short break here as we reset. Even though we are indoors, the weather here in Greensboro has been settling down, hitting close to 100 as last previous week. It's now cooled down. to a manageable 75, 80, as Vito gets ready to set off here. Hill climb. Quick mount into the double slider. Struggles to get the quick dismount. Able to recover. Quickly into these monkey bars. Messes up his timing, but able to recover quickly. Now into the rings. Struggles there, but able to get through the course, no problem. And qualifies. That one just above the median average as it's Mayor Samak, our next qualifier. I feel like I will be prone to a potential caster's curse here as many times, but no one has yet to been unable to qualify on this pass-fail course. Samak will go up. Slows into that, using this full time advantage, making sure to take his time to qualify. Walking through the course, now up the rope into the Lachey bars. Put a fly through this. A nice pace to all his movements. Run up the hill wall and scores. Like our first competitor to take their time through it and is able to get through all of it successfully on his first attempt and qualify just under 27 seconds. It is now Raz Kuza. To the double slider, grabbing onto that one monkey ring that helps the dismount. I went to this tire walk. So remember, the gray here is the no-go zone. Any sort of body part touching the gray will force a retry, as Kuza has no issue going through the course and is able to qualify. 23.5 seconds. As I will keep reminding you this, as it's Taylor Heat. This will be our first female qualifier that we've had so far. This first division is young adults, elites, and masters. We will have our preteen and teens following up. Double mismount. Struggles there. Couldn't get the successful dismounts. Goes a little too early off that second slider into that monkey bar. We'll have a quick reset here. We'll start on top of the hill climb. Into it. Able to get that successful dismount that time. Into the monkey bars. Makes quick work using each one of her to her advantage. Now into these two monkey rings, has to use that momentum to get into the safety. Able to up the warp wall and qualifies. After that small mishap on the double slider, able to recover in just a tad bit over 27 seconds and will be our first female qualifier of this event. Next is Michael Spear. Looks to qualify. All of these athletes will be competing in our World Championships at the Greensboro Coliseum. We'll love to see you out there. He goes into this double slider. Unique, not using those kind of foot pedal stools to his advantage, just forcing to climb on it like a pole. Trying to work into these monkey rings. Remember, feet almost touched there, but able to recover up the warp wall and qualifies. First competitor that I've personally noticed that hasn't been using those foot pedal stools, that orange PVC pipe. Just elected to climb on it like a fireman's pole. We have Amir Axelrad as our next qualifier. That time using the foot pedal stools, almost struggles there. Able to find safety. Now into these monkey bars. Unable to get the first successful mount into him, but can on the second attempt. Now mounts into our monkey rings. His long frame almost clipping the Danger Gray, but able to pull out the last attempt and up the warp wall to qualify. It is David Cohen, our next qualifier. So he will go up this hill climb. Uses that trampoline, bouncing into the double slider. Finds the safety. Now into our tire walk. Pulls himself up to reset himself. Now goes into those monkey rings. Dismounts into the orange, up the warp wall, and will qualify. Just a bit over 20 seconds, but very efficient from Cohen. Now it is Adam Macaulay. Adam Malik. I don't know why I said it that way. Adam Malik, our next qualifier. Almost fell there. Now into our tire walk. Bounce into the rope, into the bars. These monkey rings. Showing no signs of struggle so far. Quicked into the dismount. And score. Someone says score is the buzzer going off. I think it's a goal. But it is just him qualifying. As is now Arizé Levy. Arizé Levy, now our next qualifier. Our potential qualifiers mainly come from out of the United States. As the United States this year has become a melting pot of world athletics, the World Cup currently going on. And here at Level Up, we have our own, we'll say, mini World Cup for this qualifier. Levy now using that sole monkey bar to his advantage. Sorry, monkey ring now into the bars. Makes quick work. Now into these three rings that lead up to the warp wall. Uses the momentum up the wall and will qualify. We have seen, now it's Leah Gross, our next qualifier. Our second female competitor that we've had so far. Remember, we will have our preteen and teens following up after these adult division. Gross off the trampoline into the sliders. Into the safety, making quick work of it. Quick mount into the bars. Mount into the rings. No signs of struggle. Up the wall. And will become our second female qualifier of this event. Very efficient. Just above 20 seconds at 20.93. Remember, this is a pass-fail event as we have Omar Agronu. I will apologize in advance if I mispronounce your name. We're sporting the Barcelona jersey. Don't want to assume his nationality, but we can make him. He's making quick work. Onto the rope, off the bars. Now into the rings. Mounts off, up the warp wall, and will qualify. The next qualifier is Benny Rosner. Now, there's a small contingent of our qualifiers that come from instructors or competitors that were hosting other events throughout this season. She'll struggles to find that second bar, but able to mount successfully. See the cupping marks on his shoulder, clearly taking his health into account. Now working on these lache bars. Going through them individually. Not showing the same space as some of our competitors, but the same prowess. Now successfully mounts into the monkey rings. Feet almost touch the floor. Now into the second one. Just one more away. Now forced to mount into the warp wall. And he will successfully. Up the wall, using that pull to his advantage, and will qualify. I feel like the largest applause we've gotten from a competitor so far. A lot of camaraderie shown between competitors, not currently competing against each other. All just want the same opportunity to compete at the World Championships taking place in the Greensboro Coliseum. Taking place from Thursday to Tuesday. We'd love to see you out there. Our final event group will be the kids and mature kids, taking place at a preliminary 1 p.m. Or not. Of our third female pro qualifier, elects not to take the jump, will just mount into it directly. Now and Thorson now into this tractor walk. Now forced to grab onto the rope to mount into the lache bars. Using that upper body strength. Will be to mount into it. Now swinging to go from one to each. Now gets that final bar now in to the rings. Time quickly counting down. About 45 seconds to work with, but she'll have all the time she needs as she mounts into the safety up the wall and will be our third qualifier for the female division. Just under 50 seconds. Our first competitor not to use that trampoline jump into the mount of the double slider, electing just to take her time and make sure that mount is on her control. We have Liam Kira, our next qualifier. Previous apologies to our previous competitor, unable to catch your name. Iron's pull position onto that slider. Now into this tractor walk, quickly into the bars, picking up pace quickly. Mounts into the rings. One more obstacle to go until he hits the wall. And just above 22 seconds, very efficient run for Kira. It is now Yuval Shima. Or in the cutoff, showing off that frame he's worked on. Shiva up the hill climb, bouncing into the double slider, able to take them out, goes a little bit over that safety orange. Now into the bars, almost curls around on the first bar, able to reposition himself in the hands. Now into these rings. Very efficient, no signs of struggle, and he will qualify. No signs of fatigue anywhere in that run. It is now Yossi Ben Yosef. Our next qualifier. Once again, this taking place in Thomasville at Level Up. Huge shout out to them for hosting this event. Yosef able to find it out of the double slider. Now into this tractor walk, quickly into the bars. The rings and the wall separate him from qualifying for the World Championships. Able to mount in the rings. Cruising through the course so far. Safety orange, a wall walk away, and qualifies. And you have yet to see any of our competitors show true signs of struggle throughout this course. All very experienced with a goal in mind, and that's to qualify. A large majority of these competitors coming from outside of the country have a chance to show their talents on the world stage. We'll begin the main World Championships tomorrow at the Greensboro Coliseum. Tickets are still available if you would like to come out to support our competitors in the World Ninja League. A quick intermission between our qualifiers at this on-site qualifier. And we are still currently, it's now Jonathan Araujo, our next competitor. Timer ticks, and we are on our way. Struggles on the bounce, but able to recover. Dismount into this tire walk. Rope into the bars. Now it's just the rings and a walk up the wall that separates him from qualifying to this championships. Into the rings. Dismounts and qualifies. Just under 30 seconds. 29.09 for the people keeping track at home. So we have a quick it will be Chevitt Cohen, next qualifier. Able to take the trampoline a bit nicer. Showing quick pace. No struggle through the bars, now into the rings. Up the wall. And a very quick qualifying run. Just barely above 15 seconds at 15.04. True pace shown from Cohen. I'd like to thank for those who are watching this on-site qualifier. If you are just joining us, my name is Lucas Harrison. I'll be commentating this on-site qualifier. We have 3 divisions running today. This is our young adult, elite, and masters division in this first time slot. Following this will be our preteen and teens. And then to wrap it all up, we'll have our kids and mature kids at 1 p.m. It's a pass-fail throughout this course, a minute 30 time limit. And to qualify for our World Championships, all you need to do is clear the course successfully. You do get 2 reattempts of the course, one per obstacle. We'll have Aileen Gabby, our next qualifier. Up the hill walk, attempts to take the jump into the double slider. Trying to mount into that one monkey ring, and is able to. Tight roping through the tire, mounting into the Lachey bars. Using this momentum to go from bar to bar. Mounts into the second, now able to climb to the third and fourth. Final bar, climbs into the rings and mounts successfully. Swinging around, trying to find her avenue to that orange to stay in safety, able to tightrope it and qualifies. Maybe get 2 feet in bounds. I think this is football on that orange to qualify. It is now Josiah Pepel. Our oncoming qualifier. We've been told that our preteen and teen section will start at 10:30 a.m. The first wave has been completed. No one being unsuccessful in their qualifying attempt. We will see all of these wonderful athletes at our World Championships in the Greensboro Coliseum. All right, we will have a short intermission. 10:30 a.m. will be our preteen and teen start. I'm Lucas Harrison. Quick pop-up qualifier here. As we have an adult, looks like having everyone on his side. How about the sudden cut into it? Taking a break. Now going into the monkey bars. Using that upper body strength and also having to use the legs to help him swing through. On that second to last bar, mounts into the last one. Now has to mount into the rings and is able to. Ring into 2. Feet now pushing off the pole, unable to use momentum, forced to go back. Had struggled on the dismount of the bars. And just testing things here, trying to make sure everything's set for him. So go back, retry, 40 seconds left on the clock. Into the first bar. Count quickly running out the time. Now at 30 seconds, he's gone through a minute. Time creeping up on him. Mounts into the second last bar. Forced to drop. First unsuccessful qualifier, but a great attempt there. You can see there as we had a pop one. We'll still have our preteen and teens starting at 10:30. We just had a quick qualifier there. We'll head back to a small break. Remember, preteens and teens starting at 10:30. And we'll be sure to come back if we have any more spontaneous qualifiers here at the World Ninja League. welcome back here to the World Ninja Championships on-site qualifier here at Level Up in Thomasville, North Carolina. We will have our first contestant, maybe not, buzzer buzzed off. A small little break here as we have the preteen and teen division. We will have our demo to show our preteen and teen competitors. Same time limit at 1:30. Everyone, with the exception of our spontaneous qualifier that we had in between this intermission, qualified for our championships, taking place Thursday through Tuesday at the Greensboro Coliseum. It will be the same 6 obstacles that we've been working with. We have the hill climb to start it off, and into that double slider. And then we'll have our tire tightrope. I've dubbed it. Walking through the rope. You can see our demo run going on. And then we'll have our lache bars, or more common term for our maybe competitors, our monkey bars. And then we'll go into our final 2 obstacles. So we'll wait for the demo run before we get to those. The bars are different in length. The first to second and fourth to fifth are the widest that we have. All right, quickly went into the monkey rings right there. And then our final, the warp wall. You can use that pole to your advantage and hit the buzzer to qualify for the World Championships. We get set for action of our first competitor coming up shortly. If you are just joining us, my name is Lucas Harrison. Broadcast booth, as we have our second division running here. So glad you can be with us. Remember, this is our on-site qualifier. We have a large contingent of our participants today are international athletes outside the United States, using this event to qualify for the event taking place at the Greensboro Coliseum. If you want to come out and support the athletes, tickets are still available. We'd love to see you out there. Competitors get ready. And show you how you can qualify for a format. Remember, our first contestant will be Yotam Porat. This is how you qualify. You get 2 attempts throughout the course. You get 1 per obstacle, if I'm not mistaken. But remember, you have to finish in the 1:30 time limit. The timer will stop if you fail, but will quickly start up the minute the buzzer goes off. It's been a large... Oh, as we'll get ready to start here is Porat. Quick bounce into the double dismount. We've seen this cause some issues, able to save it. Now into the tire tightrope, quickly using the momentum into the bars. Now trying to mount into the rings, able to. The rings and the wall separate him from qualifying for the World Championships. Able to slide in, and that will be our first team qualifier, completing the course in just under 25 seconds at 24.2 for those keeping track at home. Great run there from Porat. Our obstacle list, as we have Ori Bibi, our next competitor. Our obstacleist will be our hill climb to start it all off. You can see it right there in front of Bibby. Then into that double dismount where that PVC pipe is as we get ready to start off here. Into the hill climb, you see that trampoline right in front, bouncing into it, mounts into it. Fireman's pole position, electing not to use the feet rests. Quickly into the tire tightrope, now into those shea bars. Following up are the monkey bars, blasting through the Lachey bars into these rings, which we've seen cause trouble for some of our Masters competitors. But no trouble here, up the warp wall, and qualifies just barely over 30 seconds. Of course, or my mistake, actually just barely under, able to get on the buzzer. I'll remind you one more time that now there will be awards for this, but it's all about trying to qualify for the World Championships to show your talent on the world stage. It's Asaf Roaf, our next competitor. Bouncing into it, elects to use the fleet rest, quick through it. Stumble there at the tire tightrope, but able to recover. Now, a quick dismount now into the wall. What a run there. Quickest one we've had so far, just under 15 seconds, 14.63. Spectacular run here for SF. Now it's Joey Marioli. I'll apologize if I get anyone's name incorrect. I'm able to have time to get all our correct pronunciations. Try my best. Up the hill climb, bouncing into it. Misses the feet rests. Unfortunate there on the dismount, but a lot of time will now elect to use them, sliding through. And he will grab onto the second slider. And we'll get there. Now into the tire tightrope, picking up pace quickly after the small mishap. Showing off what he can do. Now into the monkey rings. Quick dismount, great recovery. Double slider gave him some trouble, but recovers quickly to finish under 30 seconds and to qualify. We'll have a steady stream of qualifiers here in this preteen and teen division. We still have more festivities to go through as we will have Hugo and Matthew. We have our kids and mature kids division starting at a preliminary 1 p.m. or 12:30. This contest started at 10:30. So here comes Hugo. Able to get the feet rest. Struggled on the dismount, but able to recover using the upper body strength. Still quickly now into the Lachey bars. Now grabbing into that first ring. Spider-Man pose there and able to recover and qualify. Lots of athleticism shown on display there. We'll have our still yet no one to qualify. We have Omar German, our next qualifier. We've seen some small mishaps in these first few qualifiers. The only one really giving any of these competitors trouble is that double dismount that you see on your screen. You see that kind of fireman's carry PVC pipe. Acting as our first slider, and the second slider being a monkey ring to dismount into the tire tightrope. German getting ready here to start. Up the ramp, taking the trampoline bounce, quick, using all the momentum in the world. He is flying. Able to persevere through it. He had a small mishap, slinging through, and qualifies. Very quick pace from German. Qualifying under 14, 13.62. We've seen a couple of skipping of that first one on the Lachey bars, going straight to the second one. So we have Shockhead Gross, our next competitor. Very quick time here in the preteen and teen division. Showcasing that young athleticism. Of course, have our first female competitor able to get through the double dismount. Now onto the tire tightrope, quickly into the lachet bars. Quick through, now into the rings. Great athleticism there. And is able to score. Great qualifying there. Quickly go into our next qualifier. He'll climb into the double slider. So we've seen some issues, able to recover. Swings does a full 360. Quick into the lachet bars, quickly skipping through. Now into the rings. Making great pace so far, struggling. Quickly just swinging past the third one, not even using it. Using all his momentum on the second monkey ring. Swinging through the third and to qualify. Some interesting techniques being used by these teens. The lower body weight, allowing to kind of skip some of the obstacles here. This on-site qualifier for our World Championships coming up Thursday through Tuesday. Greensboro Coliseum. Abiyatar German, my mistake. I got that incorrect, trying my best here. Bouncing through, now into the double slider. Quickly into the tire tightrope, making great pace, skipping through. Small little mishap there, able to regain himself. Now into the rings, sliding through, and will qualify. Great pace shown once again from these athletes. This last chance qualifier mostly showcasing a large contingent of international athletes. Apropos, as we have the FIFA World Cup currently here in the United States. And we'll showcase our international talent here in the World Ninja League. Quickly into the double dismount, showing pace. Maybe a small mishap here. A lot of momentum being shown here. Blasting through the course. Under 13 seconds. Almost too quick to keep up here. We tried our best, but the pace just too much. We'll go quickly into the next one. We've seen these teens show off some phenomenal pacing through these obstacles. As that was quick work made by Aved. My mistake. Zohar Aved. Yet to see anyone fail in this preteen and teen division. Up to Poe, as this isn't some sort of last chance qualifier where you could make it in other events. This is just here to showcase our international talent. Blasting through. Able to dismount into the tire tightrope using that post. Quick work. Wow, what a run there. Making some of the quickest work we've had through the bars into the rings. Showing no signs of struggle, just under 14 seconds, 13.75. The only slight mishap he had was that double dismount. Kind of had to twirl around there for a second in limbo. Was able to recover, show some phenomenal pace. It's Aaron Ginsler, our next competitor. Let's see, he's just in a track set position, ready to fly through this course. It's a competition. No matter what, quick bounce into it. Looks like he's forced to fail. He has to go back. Has to reset. Maybe a tad too aggressive here. Don't want to lose that chance to not qualify. There's a minute 25 left. More than enough time to qualify through this course. It's just making sure you get through it quickly. It's a mistake on the double dismount. Has to reset. Quick bounce through. He will fail. Unfortunate there. Struggling on that double dismount. Unable to get the feet up. Took too low of an angle. That will be our first failure that we have seen. Unfortunate. Our second female qualifier in this preteen and teen division is Isabella Allen. Looking to showcase off her talents in this on-site qualifier. A huge thank you to Level Up in Thomasville, North Carolina for allowing us to use their facilities for this qualifier. Able to get the feet rest there and through the double dismount. Almost had some issues with that first slider, but quickly recovers. Likes to use that first bar, which we haven't seen too often in this division. Now into the rings. Swinging through, showing great body control. Slides through, skipping the third one altogether. Maybe a slight mishap there. Got a little too aggressive on the pole, but qualifies all the same. 22.28 for Allen. Now it is Guy Izarovich, or Guy Izarovich. Not entirely sure how he goes by the pronunciation. Here comes Izarovich. Able to save it. Wonderful body control and athleticism here, and he's still flying. The double dismount gave him a little bit of a mishap, but flies through all the same, electing not even to use the pole. Just under 15 seconds. He was able to save it on that double dismount, that first dismount. Or sorry, that first slider on the. That's caused that kind of dismounting issues from some of our competitors. Has been that first one. They've taken it a little too aggressively. So we'll have our third female qualifier, Rona Alabar. It's been that first kind of fireman straddle that's caused some issues. We'll see. Looking to take it safely. Able to get to that second slider. Now rolling through. Using that first bar, sliding through now. Flying through the rings. The rings and the wall separating her from qualifying. Uses the pole and succeeds. 23.62. We are flying through our competitors here. Noam Tal, or Ty. Tal. No mistake. Didn't know if there was an I or L on our broadcasting system. Jumping through, able to get to that first slider successfully. Flying through, stumbles at the tire tightrope, but recovers quickly. Now into the Lachey bars. Quickly into the rings, into the wall. Phenomenal pace and qualifies. 16.73. Keeping track at home. That tire tightrope, which we saw our masters in our adult division not have any struggles with, has caused a couple of our competitors to stumble, but no complete mishaps. So we have Itamar Ifrat, next competitor. Jumping into that first slider, into the second, flying through, showing tremendous pace. Quickly through the rings, up the warp wall, and qualifies. 13.51. Flying through. You have Roy Oved. Next qualifier. Sporting the same jersey as our previous competitor. Sliding through, finds that second slider in limbo. Can he recover? Yes, he can. Tremendous core strength on display here. Now he's flying. The slider gave him a little bit of trouble. Skips the bar completely, flying up the warp wall. Phenomenal recovery through the double slider and qualifies just barely above 20 seconds. It's been that double slider that's caused issues for the majority of our competitors. But once they get past, it's all but light work. We have Yahav Rosner, our next competitor. What can she display here? No struggle through the sliders. Now into the lache bars. 1, 2. Quick work there. Now struggling on these bars, using that momentum. Will swing through and climb up the wall. We have seen that technique being used by some of our competitors, just electing to skip the third ring altogether to use their core strength and momentum to fly through and swing themselves into the safety straight up the wall. Now Alama Gross up to bat. Up the climb, bouncing through. Quick through the slider. Foot got caught up for a second. No issue through. Flying through. Now into the rings. Skipping through. Go from 1 to 3, skipping 2. And he'll skip himself into a qualifying position. 15.65. And the teens flying through. Now Melissa Gadorot, our next Gadorot. Once again, I will apologize if I mispronounce any names. No ill intent behind it. Trying my best here. Flying through. Now into the lache bars. 1 to 2. Quickly into these quick fire bars. Now into the rings. Will she take the swing attempt? She will. Fast pace up the wall. Is able to qualify. Buzzer sounds just under 20 seconds. 19.28. Very interesting to see the different tactics being used by this younger division. The body weight not nearly as high as our masters, so they're able to use the core strength and momentum they build to swing them through, not having to use some of the extra help. It's Roy Drawer, next competitor. Wait for him to get set. See that double slider. That's been the issue for some of our competitors. We've seen no real struggle once they get past into the bars and rings. There's been a rudimentary, kind of the fundamental basics of the Ninja League. You can see that same issue. Feet doesn't touch. Great core strength there to keep the feet up. Now swinging through. Into the rings. Using all of the momentum he can, building as quickly as possible in qualifying. Another key example of that slider being the only real trouble to our competitors. 18.72 for Drawer. We have Yavha Shahar, the next competitor. Like a large contingency of our competitors have been from Israel. Can only assume as they sport the IS H on their backs as the abbreviation. Flying through the double slider. Now keep going to the bars. Now waiting for the rings. We'll skip 1 to 3. And up the wall to qualify. It's been the real variation between competitor to competitor has been those rings. We've seen the 1 to 2 to straight onto the safety platform. Also seen the 1 to 3 to safety. The one's completely skipped to kind of hard. You're going to have quite the wingspan to do that. You have Aereo Efrat. It's interesting to see. Some people go 1 to 3, 1 to 2. Haven't really seen one better than the other so far. Dismounts. Goes quickly through. Showing real pace. Hard to keep up. Up the wall. Some fans here in shock. Under 13 seconds. 12.95. Showcasing off that athleticism and talent and the hard work put into completing a course like this so quickly. Phenomenal to see. Our next competitor gets ready. It will be Lenore Greengott. Timer sounds. And we're off and ready to go. Bouncing through, dismounting. Can he find that second slider? Struggling in limbo. Now able to slide into safety. Now finding pace. 1, 2, quickly. Swinging through. Into safety. 2 all the way. Using the pole and qualifies. Slow and steady approach to the double slider. Works true and qualifies just over 30 seconds at 32.6. She showed phenomenal pace. A short intermission here as we wait for our next competitor to get set. We will see male and female contestants in this qualifying group. Well, the females have qualified. Only one mishap in this division so far. Looks like that will wrap up our teen and preteen group. Showed phenomenal pace with some of our contestants flying through under 13 seconds. We'll have a short break as we move to our kids and mature kids division. My name is Lucas Harrison. Thank you so much for joining us. Please stick around. We have one more division to go through. It's our kids and mature kids. I'll wrap us up here at this on-site qualifier here at Level Up in Thomasville, North Carolina. Welcome back here to Level Up in Thomasville, North Carolina, as we have our on-site qualifiers here on a beautiful Wednesday in the heart of North Carolina. If you are just joining us, or you are sticking around after our long intermission, my name is Lucas Harrison. So glad to be bringing you our final division that we have for this qualifier. Is the kids and mature kids who are getting ready to fire up and get ready to go. We'll run down our obstacle list and what you need to do to qualify. We had quite a bit of an intermission. Our obstacle list, I'll go through it with the cameras. You can see our hill climb right there on the left side, straight into the double slider. Which, if you are just joining us, that double slider caused a lot of mishaps in the preteen and teen division, the main course of contention. So we'll see if that has the same effect on the kids and mature kids. Next will be our tire tightrope, which goes straight into our lache bars, or otherwise known as the monkey bars, then into our monkey rings, and our final obstacle is the warp wall. And if you slap that red button, you qualify for the World Championships taking place from Thursday to Tuesday at the Greensboro Coliseum. We'd love to see you out there. Tickets are still available for general admission. So we have our rules being set up here. We'll have our demo run coming up shortly. We'll go through all those obstacles. To qualify, you just need to clear the course in under a minute 30. And it's a pass-fail, no competition between the two currently. A main contingent of the athletes that fill up these qualifiers are international athletes all over all over the world, not including the United States. America has become a hotbed for athletics this year with the World Cup currently ongoing with many different nations. We'll see many different nations in this qualifier. We're just going through the motions. He's explaining that we'll have see that hill climb, go straight into the trampoline to hop on to the first slider. See it as that orange pole. That rod of PPC in between, acting as a footrest. We have seen some competitors not use said footrest. So I like for the kind of fireman's pole style, if you're sliding down a pole like a fireman. So we'll get ready for our demo run to showcase our competitors what is expected of them if they want to qualify. As you see how to qualify, well, each athlete has 2 attempts on each obstacle. If you fail after 2 attempts, you will fail the course and will be unable to qualify for the World Championships taking place Thursday through Tuesday. See, taking the slider, grab onto that one monkey ring, forced to dismount. He's just going over. There's a little in-between area before you get to our tire tightrope. Just walk around the edge of the tire to get to our 4th and 5th obstacles leading up to our warp wall. The gray area acts as the out of bounds area. If any part of your body touches that gray area, you'll be forced to reset and restart at the obstacle. Once you pass an obstacle, you are not forced to go back. See the quick tire walk. Then we'll move to our monkey bars. You use the rope to mount onto it, then climb it up, get on the bars, and build momentum to go from one to the other. Now, once we get to right here, there is some interesting tactics that we've seen taking place mainly in our preteen and teen section, where some elect to skip the first bar entirely and go straight to the second. They're just demonstrating the most normal way to do it. Goes each of the bars, then you sit right there on the orange. Up the warp wall, you can use that orange pole as help. Slap that buzzer, and you qualify. Athletes here, the kids and mature kids, have been warming up for the past half hour or so. So once the action gets going, it will be rapid fire between athlete and athlete. Actually, we'll have a small adjustment here between the last two divisions. There'll actually be a minute and 45 time limit to clear the course for these athletes. Get ready. We'll have a quick reset in between each athlete, and we'll go from one to the other. We've seen almost everyone so far qualify for the World Championships with the exception of a couple. But this course does have some pitfalls that athletes can run into, namely that double slider you see on the screen. We'll move to our... You can see that kind of second slider where that one lone monkey ring stands. That's been the kind of main issue for these athletes, is getting that dismount perfectly into the ring without getting caught up. Some people have forced to do a 360 then land, or get spun out entirely and forced to restart. Once again, I'll reiterate, it's a minute and 45 time limit for these athletes today in the kids and mature kids division. So we get started here shortly. Once again, my name is Lucas Harrison. I will be on the commentary for the rest of this event. So glad you could be with us on this beautiful Wednesday afternoon. I'd also like to give a huge shout out to Level Up here in Thomasville, North Carolina, for allowing us to have this on-site qualifier preceding the World Championships taking place at the historic Greensboro Coliseum in the heart of Greensboro. Some phenomenal events have taken place at that Coliseum, and we are so happy that our World Championships can take place there as well. We have the final adjustments as we get ready to start. The first obstacle that these athletes will have to go through is that hill climb you see in the background. We'll cut to a closer camera of it. It's just that hill. You go up that hill, down into the trampoline to mount on to the first slider, the T-shaped pole. You can either use or elect not to use the footrests that have been built into it. We have seen some competitors just elect to go for the kind of fireman's position. As we have our first contestant, it will be Timote Verigay, who is due up. Forgets. A lot of international competitors, so if I get some of these pronunciations incorrect, I'm Sorry in advance. So we get ready to fire up here. Once the action gets going, it happens at a breakneck pace. There's also a small contingency of athletes that come from. Get ready here. Up the hill climb, bounce quickly in. Able to mount very successfully. Now we'll go into the tire tightrope. Quickly into the lache bars. Very quick pace using the two-handed dismount to get from one to the other. Now we move to the wings. Quick dismount from the second and qualifies, showcasing that interesting strategy we've seen that these younger athletes have put to use, going straight from the dismount from the second ring, electing to skip the third ring altogether. And our next athlete will be Allison Garrido. Allison Garrido will be our next athlete. First female competitor that we've had in this division. Mounts it very well. Tries to go second to the second dismount. Able to catch it on the way back. And gets there successfully. Now into the tire tightrope. Making great pace quickly into the lache bars. Elects to go straight for the second one, which we've seen many athletes do, skipping the first one altogether. Now to the second ring. She goes straight for the dismount. Elects to use that third ring and works successfully up the warp wall and qualifies. Slaps the red buzzer and punches her ticket to our World Championships at the Greensboro Coliseum. Next athlete will be Devon Barron. Barrian. We've had a lot of French competitors. France who had a very successful outing against Senegal in the World Cup, 3-1. Looking to translate that same success here in their performances. We're off, ready to go. Bouncing in, mounts onto it perfectly. Great dismount on the double slider. Moving through now on the lache bars. Quickly through. Able to get through now on the final obstacle before the warp wall. Dismount straight off the second one. Up the wall. Wonderful run there. The cleanest dismount we've had off that tricky double slider. Going straight through like it was nothing. Now Ronnie Tazur. All successes so far in our kids and mature kids division. Minute 45 to qualify. We've seen many competitors not even reach 30 seconds so far. Here's Ronnie's run. Struggling on the bounce up, but elect to take it safely. Quickly into that second slider. Kind of the kickback on the motion caused some issues, but able to recover. Now to the lache bars. Quickly moving. The rings and the wall stand between him and a qualification. Now into the wall. Pull and buzzer. Great there from Ronnie. Just under 30 seconds at 27.61. We have Theophile Cambas. What a name there. My pronunciation's being tested here early. What's the fun? Making it easy. Taking the trampoline jump. Only getting 1 foot. Can he reach it? Yes, he can. Able to get that one arm. Swings and uses the momentum and the slider the rest of the way. Now into the wall, quickly through. Upper body strength being used here on the rope crawl. Able to get that first bar. Going from one to the other. Quickly moving. Will now mount into the rings. Goes to the second one. A lot of momentum being built here. He'll swing directly to it. Now using the pole. Climbing up the wall. Struggling here. Can he get there? Yes, he can. Pole being a huge advantage there. As all the momentum builds up from the monkey rings into the dismount. Up the wall. Now it's Lilo Amatthew. Matthew. Lilo Amatthew will be our next competitor. Once again, I will apologize ahead of time if I get any pronunciations messed up. Trying the best I can. Upper hill climb, bouncing into it, gets 2 feet on the dismount. Now sliding up very clean to our tire rock. Stumbles there, but recovers. Making mince work of our monkey bars. Now into the ring variation. 1 to 2, now going for that third one. Lands successfully up the wall. And qualifies. Very clean run there. As our athletes making quick work of the course required of them to qualify. So we have Shackhead. Shackhead, our next qualifier. Struggling here. Able to find the mount. Now into our tire tightrope. To the bars. Getting quick speed now into the bars. Using all of the momentum built up on the dismount. Up the wall. And the athletes here staying perfect on this course for their qualification. Looks like the added time, no one has needed it. They're making quick work with all these competitors trying to win the championship in their division. Again, I will remind you as we have Thomas Raphael, our next competitor, as Raphael gets ready. Bounce, able to get 2 feet on the bars. To that second ring, kind of struggles. Gets 2, trying to build momentum and is safe. Lost all of it, but gains enough to keep going. Now, up this rope climb, trying to mount on that first Lachey bar, is able to. 1 to 2. Building momentum, maybe trying to go for it all. Goes to the third, now fourth, now fifth. Quick movements now. Move to the rings. Raphael. Dismounts straight from the second. The wall is all that's in between. And makes quick work. Able to recover off that second slider. Had a bit of issues on the kickback as we have Charlie Mutz, our next competitor. Recovered very well to qualify. So our final division, our kids and mature kids. Up the hill climb, bouncing on. Second slider, no problem. Hip scotching around the tire. Now into what I can only assume is his favorite playground activity, these monkey bars. Now the rings. Going for that third one, misses it on the, now it's swinging all around, but able to catch it. And dismounts perfectly up the wall. And able to hit the buzzer. Had a bit of issues, knocked that third ring awry. But times it perfectly for the grasp, and dismount. Our next competitor will be now James Motz. Here comes Motz. Time ticking now. Bit of miscommunication here. We'll reset. And he was still having some questions around the course. Or maybe it was the wrong competitor. That could have been the issue. I think that was the wrong competitor. Still James Motz. As we reset and get ready. Once again, I'd like to say thank you to Level Up here in Thomasville. We have a lot of great sporting events, like the High Point Thomasville High Toms playing at historic Finch Field in the middle of their season, having a very successful one so far. Shout out to the High Toms as we start here quickly into the dismount. Now going to that second one makes no problem at all. Lots of pace being shown here by Motz. Now into the rings. Dismounts up the wall, and Motz making quick work of our course. 21.07 seconds. Surely to be proud of that time. So we now have our competitor who thought they were up. Corin Zoritz. As we start to hit the back half of our competitors here. So glad that you can join us here for this on-site qualifier. The main event, our World Championships, will take place Thursday through Tuesday at the Greensboro Coliseum. Can't wait to see you there. Bouncing to the trampoline. Fireman's carry. Can't find that second ring. He's going to have to readjust himself. Can he find it? Yes, he can. Able to grasp it with the right arm. Builds enough momentum to land safely. Now gaining speed. Quickly up the wall, straight to the second bar. Great recovery here. Zoritz dismounts straight off the second, up the wall, and even the early woes don't get Zoritz down as he recovers and finishes just over 30 seconds. Next competitor will be Gefren Zavi. See what Zavi can do on her attempt. Bounce onto our double slider. We'll actually have a false start. Forced to reset. Timer wasn't going. Started a tad bit early. Zavi will now have to reset and restart the course. First false start we've had today. Hopefully he doesn't get in the mind of Zavi. She finishes this course. Has the ability to showcase off her talents at the Greensboro Coliseum. Less than a day away. Up the hill. Quick bounce. No false start here. Forced into a fireman's pole position, but recovers quickly. Taking the tightrope slowly. Now quick up to the second bar already. Hopping through. No issue at all. Flying through this monkey section of the course. Dismounts up the wall, and the false start, no problem, qualifies. A minor mishap, has no issue on the run thus far. Looks like that might be potentially our final runner. We'll make sure. Maybe I was We wait to see if we have another runner queued up. Looks like we will, actually. It is Haven Araujo, potentially. This is the name being billed on our in-venue time system. Looks like she's getting coaching. What we can assume is relative far. Araujo competed earlier in our contest in the Master Division. Well, let's see what Haven can do. Climbing up the hill climb. Trampoline bounce. You take the mount slowly. 1 and 2. Here comes the slide. Grabs the ring on the way back. He's got to use his momentum for the first slide. Swinging and using that core strength. Able to get there. Now through our tire tightrope. Around it quickly. Now forcing to use that upper body strength. Great strength shown here by Haven. Araujo making quick work of this course. Now into these lache bars, using every inch of her wingspan. 1 ring to 2. Coaching from father. Working quite well here so far. Dismounts just the warp wall. Can she get up? Grabs the pole right there now. Forced to working her way up. Up the hill to the buzzer. Can she get it? Yes, she can. Great job there from Araujo to qualify. A family affair here. Looks like that will conclude today's on-site qualifier here at Level Up in Thomasville, North Carolina. Thank you all for joining us, as we will have our opening ceremony tomorrow at the Greensboro Coliseum to start our multi-day World Championships here in the World Ninja League. From Lucas Harrison and here, everyone at the World Ninja League, thank you all for tuning in.